Hi everyone, Jack from Maths Forge here. In today's lesson, we're going to be ordering decimals. So let's take a look at our first example. We're being asked to write in ascending order. Ascending means smallest first, largest last, the following numbers. You always start from the left-hand digit. So for this number, I'm going to take a look at the number in the units column, the number in the units column, and units column. And since it's ascending order, so we're looking for the smallest first, I can see that out of these four numbers, the smallest number is this 5.7, since it has a 5 in the units column compared to the 6 in the other numbers. So that's the first number I'm going to write down, 5.7, and then I'll cross it out to know that I've used it. Now, if you take a look at the other three numbers, you can't tell which one's the smallest just by looking at the units column. We're going to have to go to the tenths column for this. So let's take a look at the tenths column. Here's a 5, here's a 1, and here's a 4. So the next smallest number here is 6.1, since it has a 1 in the units column. And I'm going to cross this out. Now the next smallest number out of the two must be the 6.4, since it has a 4 in the units column, while the 6.5 has a 5. So I'm going to write that next, 6.4. And of course, last but not least, we have the 6.5, which is the largest number out of all of them. And if we just check our answer, there it is. Now let's do a 2-star example. We're being asked to write in ascending order the following four numbers. So this is slightly different because we actually have a number in the tens column here and some numbers in the units, tenths, and hundredths column. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is, which number has the largest column? So we can see here that this is the tens column, while the other numbers don't have any digits in the tens column. So this 76 immediately for me is the largest number. And since we're writing in ascending order, we need the smallest number first. So I'm not going to use the 76. And if we take a look at the other numbers, we have the 7.2, which has a 7 in the units column, while the other two numbers have a 0. So these two numbers here must be smaller than the 7.2. And now these two numbers here, to determine which one is smaller, we have to go into the tenths column, since we can't tell just by looking at the units. So I'm going to go into the tenths column, and you can still see that they both have 7. So you're still unable to determine which one's smaller. So I'm going to go into the hundredths column, and I can see that this number here has a 6, and this number here has a 4. So out of all of these four numbers, the 0.74 is the smallest number. So I'm going to go ahead and write that first and cross it off our list. Now we've already established that these two numbers to the left are larger. So the next smallest number must be 0.76. And I'll cross this off our list. Out of these two numbers, this number here has a number in the tens column. So the largest column here is the tens column. And this 7.2 only goes up to the units column. So the next smallest number must be 7.2. And finally, the largest number must be 76. And if we just check our answers, here they are. Let's go ahead and do a 3-star example. So we're being asked to write in descending order, which means the largest first and the smallest last. And just as before, if we take a look at the leftmost column, here's the units column, units column, units column, and units column. They all have numbers in the units column. So we can see that we want the largest number first, and these three numbers here all have 1s in their units, where this number here has a 0, so these three must be larger. And we can't tell which one is larger just by looking at the units column, so we have to go into the tenths column. This number here has a 4. This number here, this 1, doesn't have any number in the tenths column. So immediately the number to the left of it, 1.4, it has a 4 in the tenths column and therefore is larger than the 1. And this number here to the right has a 3 in the tenths column. So since we're looking for the largest number first, because it's in descending order and it's largest first, I've established that this 1.4 must be the largest number. So I'm going to write that down with a comma and cross this off the list. Now, the next largest number has to be this 1.3, since it has a 3 in the tenths column and this one doesn't have anything there. So the next largest number must be 1.3. And I'll cross this off the list. And of course, you can see here that this 1 must be the next largest number, as it has a 1 in the units column, where this 0.7 has a 0. So I'm going to go ahead and write down that 1 next and cross this off the list. And last but not least, the smallest number out of the bunch is 0.7. If we just check our answers, there they are. So that's it for ordering decimals. Just be careful about which columns you're dealing with. If you have a number that has a hundreds column and another number that has a tens column, then by default, the number in the hundreds column must be larger than the number in the tens column.